Now you say, what the heck does this have to do with America under Obama? It has everything to do with America and Obama. I'm warning you that his alignment with Chavez, with Castro, with Hillary Clinton taking the side of Chavez and Castro, if you do not see the emerging dictatorship in America, you are not only blind, you're a danger to yourself and everyone around you. It may not be that Obama intends to create the equivalent of Red Guards in America, but I'm very worried about something he said during the campaign. Do you have that soundbite, guys? If you do, we're going to play it when we come back, where Obama virtually said that once he had total power, he would create the equivalent of Red Guards. I'll play it when I come back.
Savage, the Savage Nation.
Download the podcast at 910knew.com.
It is the Savage Nation. Troops out of Iraq, a comedian into the Senate. Madoff victims that want you to pay for their bad investment, etc., and so on. We're talking about that and other topics. But before the break, I read to you of what went on in China under the communist Mao Zedong, how he created a Red Guard of the most vicious students who then went around killing other revolutionaries in addition to capitalists. And you say, well, what does it have to do with America? Don't be silly. Obama's just a nice liberal. Listen to this.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
Now, if Obama creates a civilian national security force, he will be creating the Red Guards. And they will go after every political enemy in the country the way the Red Guards did for the early communists in Russia and the way they did it for Mao Zedong in China, and you'll know that it's over. And whether this can happen is another story. I'm sure it could happen. It's not a question of could it happen. It's theoretically possible. The question is, will it happen? And I don't think you understand the danger you are in the fact that Obama clearly stated what he was going to do if he won. It didn't mean he would do it the first day. First, he had to do what all dictators do, which is get control of finance, which he did, by the way, with the help of the financiers who he smeared. Don't you understand how this worked? The team behind Obama is so smart that in order to get the capitalists who screwed you in their pocket, they took your tax money in TARP funds and bailout funds and bought them off with it through Goldman Sachs. They even had the audacity under George Bush to turn Goldman Sachs, which was a private investment bank, into a bank so they could qualify for TARP funds. Straight out bunco of the greatest order. The greatest theft in American history was not Madoff. The greatest theft in American history, in my opinion, was not Bernie Madoff. It was Goldman Sachs. It still is Goldman Sachs, in my opinion. What's good for Goldman Sachs is not necessarily good for America. All right. So first he buys off the financiers through bailouts that they're not qualified for, meaning taking your tax money and giving these pigs billions of dollars so they can continue their thievery. Not only in this investment bank, but in many others and in banks in general. Now he owns the banks. Then he takes over General Motors and he rewards the unions and busts out America's premier automobile company. In your lifetime, did you ever think this would happen? Destroys it, decimates it, breaks it apart, destroys it. He breaks up Chrysler and he bails out a private investment group known as Cerberus Capital Management, not even a public company, private investors headed up by a guy who used to be a Treasury Secretary who also came from Goldman Sachs, again bailing them out with your money. He owns them. Socialized medicine, socialized climate control, one step at a time, one giant step at a time until eventually he has total power, until he silenced all of the powerful forces in America. Then he could create the Red Guard that he warned you he would create. He actually signaled and told you what he would create. But the vermin in the media, don't get me started because I'll start smashing things here. These nice boys and girls in the media who are literally the people who have ruined this country. These people in television who have destroyed America and are trying to steal your freedom itself are the enablers of the emerging Mao Zedong revolution in the United States of America, in my opinion. It can still be stopped. It can still be stopped if enough of you wisen up fast enough to what's coming down in this country. You understand that? San Diego, Tanya, you're on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Michael. I went to a political conservative meeting this weekend in San Diego with a man who was making a 40-city tour. And after the presentation, it was very wonderful. Everybody was all conservative. They were all standing around talking, and everybody was talking, started into conservative talk radio, and everybody was saying, oh, yeah, no for that guy, no for all the big names. And then I said, well, what about Michael Savage? And they all looked at me and said, he's the only one who will give you the right and the correct and the honest answers. And I said... And
I was the only one who wasn't at that rally. Is that correct?
We wish. Oh, my God. If you would have been there, it would have been...
I have nothing against the showmen who had put it on, pretending that they wrapped themselves in the flag, that they love the troops. Did any of them ever give a dime of their own money for the troops, or they went there only to be loved and worshipped? No, I'm going to ask you, did any of the great patriots who attended this soldier-loving festivity in San Diego, did they contribute any of their own money to the troops or to any troop-related organization that you know of?
I think they have, yes.
Good. I'm glad to hear it because I doubt it. I'd like to know the exact amount. The day a cheap lawyer from New York who poses as a patriot gives 10 cents from his own pocket is the day I'll raise a flag over Macy's. I don't believe they gave a dime of their own money. I think that it's sickening to wrap yourself in the flag of the American troops when they themselves are not military men. That's the reason I didn't attend. I think it's sickening for them to do so and pretend that they're so patriotic. Because the patriotic thing would be for them to abandon their careers in radio and volunteer for the military in some form or other and not make such a show about it. They did it for their own ego and also for their own careers, which is why I didn't go. If I want to help the troops, I send them my own money or raise money for them, as I did. But, you know, to each his own. That's all. Everyone has their own way of doing things. I don't like using the troops as a career-advancing technique. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. They were all for you, though, Michael, and they didn't have anything good to say about the other conservative talk show people.
Well, wait. You mean the people were for me?
Yes. 100%.
But not the wall banger. Not the wall banger. Not the others who wrapped themselves in the flag. Certainly not the hemorrhoid with ears.
Oh, none of them. They were saying the only one who you should listen to is Michael Savage. Because
the people love me. Look, I know that, Tanya. The people love me. But I'm one man alone, and I have my reasons for going and not going to certain events. I just want to summarize. I will not use the troops for self-advancement. If others wish to do so, that is their right. Thank you for the call. That's all. So here we are. Let's go back to the callers on every topic, from restaurants to boating. It's the July 4th weekend. The roads are empty. Half the people are gone already. I can tell you right now. I can tell you that because the restaurants in the Bay Area are out in the burbs are half empty. The roads are empty, and there's no barbecue smoke or poisonous vapors coming from my neighbor's fireplace. They must be somewhere else. Thank God. Ann Arbor, Michigan. Joe, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Michael, you would go absolutely stir crazy if you didn't live in such a liberal town. I moved from Ann Arbor, which is like mini Leningrad, to a little village called Dexter, about 10 miles west. And I go to Ann Arbor daily. It's like going to a trip to the zoo. I see the freak show.
Yeah. And yes. You have to look at the Obama bumper sticker, Prius driving freak liars, hypocrites from hell.
I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said, I'm already against the next war.
That's nice. Yeah, they're already against everything, aren't they? Except, well, let's leave it at that. Look, the fact of the matter is, people say to me, why do you live in such a liberal city if you have such distemper with it? And I say, I am reminded of what Voltaire, the great French writer, said, is that he lives in Paris in order to document their foibles. In other words, how could he write about the foibles of the Parisian of his time if he didn't live around them?
Exactly. Cannon fodder.
Well, I wouldn't say cannon fodder. I'd say grist for the mill.
Well, there you go.
Enjoy Ann Arbor. Go have a double Frappuccino espresso with beans raised at 4,600 feet with distilled water and cows that are raised on the moon. You ever hear them go into a coffee shop? It's not like your father says, give me a cup of coffee. Have you ever heard these people, how sick they are when it comes to a coffee? I'll take a double espresso latte, phrase the frappuccino with distilled water with cows that are raised by organic goats in heaven. And on that side, I mean, I've never heard anything like this. Never. It's San Francisco to a T, which is why I love it so much. But here we are near July 4th already, and we got the Chinese restaurant story, the Japanese, the Thai, and you could say no goo if you want. Say no oil and no sugar, but you know what you get instead. You get horse glue. If you say you don't want no oil, you know what you get in the dish instead. Extracted hoof from like a slaughterhouse horse is what they give you if you're not careful. You got to be careful, too, what you say. Because they're controlling what's going in your mouth. You say, low oil. Okay, we'll give them low oil. Get the shoe glue from the dead horse in the back. Kansas City, Mike, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hey, Mike, I hear you asking if you complain too much. And I've been making an observation for some time now that really bothers me, and I just was wondering if you've made it too. I walk into an Asian restaurant, and I can always tell a table full of liberals, even before they even utter a single word about